Very good. I'd like to call this meeting to order. Village Council Public Workshop Agenda, March 13th, 2018. Adequate notice of this meeting has been provided by a posting on the bulletin board in Village Hall, by mail to the Ridgewood News, the Record, and by submission to all persons entitled to same as provided by law of a schedule, including the date and time of this meeting. Roll call.
Councilman Hache?
Here.
Councilman Seaton?
Here.
Councilman Voigt?
Here.
Councilwoman Walsh?
Here.
Mayor Knutson?
Here. Please stand for the flag salute. In the back? Yep. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please join us for a moment of silence for our men and women serving our nation, our first responders, and all those who have suffered from needless violence. Thank you. And we'll start with public comments, not to exceed 3 minutes per person for a total of 40 minutes. Public comment. Come on, Bonnie, come on up. Good evening. Just state your name and address for the record.
Charlotte at 110 Sheridan Terrace, Ridgewood. I feel like I'm coming to the wrong night for dinner, but the vote is not for the resolution this week. It's next week.
No, actually, it's tomorrow night. But see, actually, so just this was actually our work session from last week. That was canceled due to snow. So we're here kind of in a crunch doing tonight, last week tonight, this week tomorrow night. So the vote is tomorrow night, the discussion is tonight.
Okay, so just to add, this week happy to report that New Milford and Wyckoff unanimously passed the resolution against national concealed carry. I had the pleasure to go to Wyckoff along with many others to talk to their council. And one of the councilmen, he was adamant in stating that this is a states' rights issue, and New Jersey has strong laws, and he wanted to keep it that way. So I just thought, that was an important note to make, and we have 2 more towns, and good luck tomorrow. Thank you.
Great, and great orange shirt, too.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Public comments? Okay, with that, we're moving to our agenda. Close public comments.
Okay, our first item is for Ridgewood Water is awarding contracts, installation of water mains. 13 bid packets were picked up and 12 bids were received. There's an engineering bid tabulation recommendation by Suburban Consulting Engineers. If you recall, we did hire them in 2016 to be the engineer of record for this project. They prepared the construction documents, reviewed all the bids, and they're also going to assist with water with administering the construction phase of the project. Funding for this has been accounted for in the Ridgewood Water capital budget. Basically, it's going to be installation of approximately 2,800 linear feet of 6-inch and 8-inch diameter iron water mains and related valves, fire hydrants, service connections, and appurtenances. The existing water mains are to be replaced along Beechwood Road in Ridgewood and along Myrtle and Linwood Avenues in Midland Park. The installation of the new water mains will rectify water quality issues resulting from the aging infrastructure, as well as improve fire flow.
Okay, questions, comments? Moving on.
Okay. The next item is awarding a state contract for a Super Duty Ford F-350. This is an ongoing equipment replacement program. One of our vehicles, a 2007 Ford F-350, has a utility service body, and what's happened is it's usually used during the day by our water crews and then by the on-call service truck or emergency call-outs. Time is taking its toll on it. Mechanically, the downtime due to engine, chassis, and electrical issues has increased greatly in the past year and a half. The toolboxes on the utility body actually can no longer be locked because of hinges that have rusted, basically. So the new quote is for our 2018 Ford Super Duty F-350, same utility body style. It will house a small vacuum piece of equipment required for cleaning up curb boxes and valve boxes that are filled with debris and dirt. and therefore we don't have to shut down a broken water main or broken water service in a timely manner, as an example. Not only will this piece of equipment save us time, money, and loss of water, it'll be efficient and self-contained. The new truck will update the equipment fleet, better service the customer base, and also comply with the latest environmental and safety standards for many more years to come.
Okay.
And again, that's under a state contract.
Anyone have questions on that?
Okay. The next one is, purchase of materials and supplies under state contract. This is for, various things within Ridgewood Water. This is going to exceed 17.5, which is the statutory, limit, and therefore we're going to, pass this resolution so we can exceed that amount for a total amount not to exceed 50,000. So, and this, funding in the water operating budget.
Questions?
Okay, the next item is, it's actually two items, they're stapled together. About halfway through is the 2018 water rates and fees, and also reestablishing the water rates and fees for 2010 to 2017. This ordinance is based on the water rate study performed by Howard Woods. It was prepared by the village's attorneys involved with the Ridgewood Water lawsuit, along with Bob Rich Calvi and myself. It'll be discussed tonight and then introduced tomorrow. This is in keeping with the court's order to reestablish those rates once the rate study is done. In addition, Mr. Calvi, as I said, about halfway through it, has done revised water rates. There'll be no changes in the volume rate, so the rate for that will remain at $4.69 per 1,000 gallons. We anticipate instituting the new charges for the third and fourth quarter bills for 2018. Perhaps I'll just have Mr. Calvi come up just to briefly summarize what those changes are. It's basically for meters and things like that. So I'll just ask you.
Okay, good evening.
Good evening.
So this is a follow-up from our budget discussion. I guess it was about a week and a half ago, the first Friday of budget meetings, where I presented the 2018 budget. And on the basis of that revenue requirement, there was a need to raise more revenue for the utility to pay for that requirement. And as part of the Howard Woods study, what came out of that, and just to summarize for the public what we discussed at the budget meeting, Howard Woods found that the fixed charges, the facility charges that we charge every customer were very low, and that the distribution of the charges were not in line with current standards. Essentially, the American Waterworks Association has a manual that describes the ratios for different size meters. It's on the basis of our lowest size meter, which is a 5/8 meter, moving up to as high as a 4-inch, which we do have in the system. Each meter charge should be based on a ratio that is calculated by the AWWA for the size of that meter and the type of flow that transfers through that meter, or the gallonage. What's happened in history through the utility, as rate increases have occurred, whether they be 3%, 6%, 10%, they've just been applied across the board to those fixed charges rather than distributed in accordance with those ratios. So that you have in your packet a repeat of the information that I had at the budget hearing that night. I've also supplemented that information this time with a table that shows you what the fixed charges would have been from 2010 through 2017 if they were done properly. So just by example, if you look at the chart, everything's based on the lowest size meter. So there's a base charge for the 5/8 meter, and then moving up the scale, if you had the 4-inch meter, that cost should be 25 times more than the 5/8 cost. In the past, that was just adjusted by the whatever rate increase it was. So for all those years, those rates weren't properly distributed. What's proposed for this year, in addition to doing the proper distribution, is increasing that 5/8 rate because on the basis, again, on what Mr. Woods concluded and what's in the publication from the AWWA, is that the fixed charges should bring in enough revenue that's close to 20% of the utility expense. In 2017, we were about 14%. So the 5/8 meter charge for 18 is proposed to get closer to that 20% number and account for that new redistribution. So I believe you have the chart in there which shows the new charges. They're now in an ordinance form that you have as well. And I think there may have been a resolution attached to that recites all the reasoning behind where it came from, the Wood study, justification behind the AWWA manual, whether or not you want that language put into the ordinance or kept as a separate document. I mean, I think is a legal question that's come up in the past couple of days. But, with that, I'll be happy to ask any questions. Let me just add one more thing before that. We talked about this at the budget hearing as well. But on the basis of projection, we haven't raised rates in 3 years. So without doing this year, undoubtedly, the volume rate increase next year would be tremendous. So this is, the beginning. It's a good step forward, and will lessen the burden in the future, prevent from a large rate increase.
Okay, so any questions so far?
Yeah, Rich, I'm looking at the table at the back, 5H to 4 inches, and the increases are, for the fixed charges are significant.
Yes.
In order of magnitude of 20 to 40% higher than they would be before. What percent of the revenues does this account for?
Well, in 18, since it will only be 2 quarters, I believe it's about 16%.
Okay.
Or it's 16% of expense.
16%.
I'm sorry, 16% of expense.
Okay.
As far as how much of the actual revenue it is,
Yeah.
to go back a sheet or a couple sheets, I included the revenue page of the budget. So we're looking at a $17 million revenue stream, of which you have that water rent number of $12.8 million.
Yeah.
Part of that is the fixed charges. I don't know the breakout, but I could get you that percentage.
Yeah, just kind of understand
Yep.
that. And is this, based on what's happened in the past with the other towns, is this going to create an issue for us?
I can't answer that question.
I think I can maybe just, there's already enough issues going on with regard to this anyway, so I don't think any change in the rates at this point in time is going to create any new issues. So,
Okay.
the other issues are all about the method of allocation, and this is a much different, or a more realistic approach along with AWA guidelines and formula like this, so.
If you can give me the number, what that represents, thanks. That's it.
Thank you.
So anyone else have any questions? Yeah, Mike.
And then, Rich, this just kind of brings us in line with other utilities and nationally, I guess, where we should be. So that's,
Other utilities are size.
okay,
If you
right.
compared us to single municipal utilities, we're higher. But if, on that chart, I included Suez and Passaic Valley Water Commission. We're still going to be lower than they are. Passaic Valley in particular, their 5/8 rate is $70.47 per quarter. The new rate we're proposing is $32.98 per quarter.
Okay, thank you.
So, and just again, that most everyone has that size on their,
Yes, we have 18,801 accounts that are 5/8.
okay, and so basically, folks would see a whatever that is per quarter.
$7.41 per quarter.
Per
So
quarter
it's about a $29, almost $30 increase for the year.
Okay.
And for 2018, it would just be the last 2 quarters of the year.
Right, got it. Okay, does anyone else have any questions? Okay, anything? No? We're all done.
Thank you.
Okay, the next is under budget, and the first is awarding the contract for the annual agreement for the upgrade and maintaining of the SCADA system at the water pollution control facility. Keystone Engineering has help in, they're specialists in control engineering, and they assist in assessing the problems and fixing the SCADA system. They've done that several years. SCADA controls the operations of the pumps, the blowers, and other equipment at the water pollution control facility. They've done a good job, and so Mr. Buttershauser is recommending that they be awarded the 2018 service and maintenance of the SCADA system in an amount not to exceed $25,000. And it's provided for in the capital ordinance.
Questions, anyone?
And the next one is a budget reserve transfer resolution. This is transferring funds from departments that have excess funds to departments that don't in the 2017 budget.
Okay, questions?
The next one is a recycling management resolution. This is a minimal resolution which endorses the submission of the municipal recycling tonnage grant to the applications in JDEP. We then receive some funding as every municipality does statewide based on those expenditures.
No questions? Going on.
The next one is miscellaneous fire department equipment being declared surplus. It's reached the end of its usable life, it's damaged and not suitable for repair. So it's everything from chainsaws, rotary saws, to brass hose fittings, to hoses. So it's a variety of things.
Okay. Any questions? Nope.
The next one is our shared service agreement with Washington Township. As you know, last year we tried to do this. This is for fleet service, or vehicle maintenance and repair services to be serviced at our fleet services garage. There's been a change in leadership in Washington Township, and so they decided this is a good idea. And so we have the contract as well as the resolution to enter into the shared services agreement. It's been reviewed by Mr. Rogers, and any changes he recommended have been made. And so we'd like to move forward with this at this time.
And just those rates, that's like just the going rate? Is that what we have there listed at that?
Well, we have various rates. There is an additional amount added on to it, correct, for our, can you just come up to the fence?
So there's two categories of rates. There's labor charges based on the type of equipment
Right.
that we'll maintain. It's an hourly charge. Then there's part charges. There's a 10% administrative fee on top of any parts. In addition to that, if they elect to do just general service, preventive maintenance, it's a flat fee based on the class of vehicle.
Okay.
Every year, these fees will be reviewed and adjusted. The ones that are in here currently were based on the current staff and mechanics rates, and then there was a overhead applied to them to get to that dollar amount.
Okay. Good, thank you.
Glad to see you back.
You ready to move on?
Just a quick question.
Okay.
Are we putting revenue projections in for this, or?
We still owe you a spreadsheet. There was one that was already done for this township. We didn't do the Board of Ed one
Yeah.
as of yet, but we need to update it because it was over a year ago.
Yeah, okay. That'll be part of the final budget, right?
Oh, part of the final budget, yes.
Yeah, okay.
The only thing is, we may or may not be able to put it in as anticipated revenue this year. The Division of Local Government Services would have to let us know whether or not they'll allow it, because of the fact that usually you can only anticipate what you realized, and we haven't realized any revenue from it yet.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
okay.
So this is kind of like free gravy for us?
Well, what'll happen is next year we can anticipate revenue based on this year's experience.
Yeah, okay.
So.
Got it.
Okay. All right, so the next one is the tub grinder. We did discuss this at the previous work session, and what I want to let you know that we will be meeting with Glenrock next week to discuss this further, to figure out how they want to proceed, if they wish to continue to do a shared services agreement for the tub grinder with us, or if they wish to possibly purchase the old tub grinder, or if they're not interested in participating at all, you know.
Okay.
If we do sell the tub grinder, you know, it might be on Gov Deals, and if we do so, obviously a portion of that sale will go to Glenrock,
Right.
as they purchased it and have maintained it. It's been split 2/3, ones that are 2/3 for the village, 1/3 for Glenrock. So, Mr. Kelly and I will be meeting with them and their DPW, next week to
Okay,
discuss it further. So I should have something for you for the 28th.
okay. Good.
The next one is the election printing. Municipal election, as you know, is coming up. Municipal election printing is exempt from bidding. And so I did go out though to two printing companies that do this type of printing. It's not just something you can go to a local printer and say, this is what I want. They have to know the specs for the machines. It includes sample ballots, machine strips. It also is printing the labels for the sample ballots and fixing them, bringing them to the post office. So it's quite involved. In any case, I did send it out to two of the printers I've used in the past, which are Royal Printing Service and Printing Craftsman. Printing Craftsman did not respond to the request, and Royal Printing Service, who we used in 2016 for both the municipal election as well as the referendum election, and they did a good job. They proposed a 2% increase, so it's $19,800 for the printing. So that does not include the postage for the sample ballot.
Okay.
The next item is paving and resurfacing. As you know, we adopted the bond ordinance early, which I think works well because we get our proposals out quickly and are able to get prices from vendors before everyone else gets their paving contracts out. So we had 13 plan holders, but some of them were bid services, so we got 7 bids back, which is a good amount. B&L Paving submitted what looked to be the lowest bid, however, they didn't use addendum number 2's proposal pages, which were revised quantities. So when that was recalculated, we found out that they ended up being the 5th lowest bidder and not the lowest bidder. And so the low bid then was from J.A. Alexander. We've used them in the past. The amount is $2,489,852.17. It's to be funded by the 2018 capital budget. He would like to do a partial award to the contractor in an amount of $1,900,000 to start the paving work, and then we can go forward from there. The work covered by the recent NJDOT grant, which is for Hillcrest Road, will be considered separately. Because as you know, we do have to appropriate the whole amount, and then we get reimbursed by the state for the
Yep.
grant.
Okay.
You said that we've used these people before?
Yes, we have, and it's been positive,
It has.
yes.
Help me understand when you say, what are you doing? I
It
mean, did the
means
road
that-
last a long time, or?
Well, it means that working with them was a good experience, and that we really don't have customer service complaints, and we don't have issues dealing with them and them not adhering to the specifications that we present. So they would recommend, the engineer would recommend doing with them again.
Okay. And you don't get any kind of warranty with paving, do we?
No, unfortunately, because weather-related things, they really don't have any control over.
Yeah.
So that would be nice.
Yeah, but they're typically supposed to last, what, 10 years? Is that, what's the
You know,
length of?
I don't know,
Okay.
honestly, I can't answer that question, but I can find out, but
Yeah.
I don't think there would ever be a warranty, because it could be, potholes, it could be, the freezing and unfreezing during the winter months.
Plowing, everything
Yeah,
that could
exactly.
damage it, yeah.
It's just this area is harsh on,
It
it's
is,
harsh on
yeah,
our
it's not like
roads
we're in
and,
temperate climate,
Yeah.
it's the same all the
Right.
time,
Yeah. Yeah.
did you say PSC and
Their roads have,
Right.
CNG,
Yeah, exactly.
their roads have lasted a long time, I imagine, using them there.
right,
The work has been good.
good, yes, their work
Okay.
has been good,
Yeah.
correct. Okay, so the next one is, purchase and repair police vehicle equipment and radios. This is the award of the second year of a 2-year bid, and it actually ends, June 30th of 2018. For some reason, it came to light that we should have done this sooner, obviously. And so as they went to purchase, they realized they hadn't renewed it through a resolution, so we will be renewing it. And then they'll, probably go out to bid again after June 30th of this year to, continue the purchase.
Okay.
Next one is a proposed ordinance for the temporary skate park rules and fees. I discussed this with the mayor, and she said maybe it should be seasonal skate park, and it's because it uses the roller hockey rink, and it's from mid-April through mid-October. And so that's why it's temporary, because it's not always there, because roller hockey's in there, is the primary use. We've had some issues with dangerous use, refusal users to follow the rules that are posted, illegal behavior, continual scattered trash and bottles. So the posted rules and regulations really need to be backed up by an ordinance, which is what we're doing, this way it can be enforced. In addition, there's a proposal to have a membership application and a badge for those who use the skate park, which would be $25 annually for residents and $50 for non-residents. I've been told that if it's a group of 10 or more, there will be no charge, is that correct? Okay, and then, once these ordinances are adopted, we'll be able to have, enforcement, whether it be by the police department or just members of our recreation staff who may stop by and ask to see badges as they do for tennis courts. So this is something, again, we want to establish this, it isn't currently in, place, but we do feel it will help with enforcement and also to, have people realize, that there are rules and regulations in using that skate park.
So, does anyone have questions? I have a couple questions.
Yeah, I have a couple. Yeah.
Okay, maybe I'll have Nancy Biggers
Yeah, come on up.
in case, she answers some questions.
Good evening, Mayor and Council.
Do you want to go?
Yeah, so, thank you. Like any ordinance, how do you enforce this? I mean, I'm assuming if kids aren't wearing protective equipment, someone would be there and say, you gotta go home and put your protective equipment on, and
That's true.
Yeah.
What we'd like to be able to do is that we do enforce some of the rules and regulations by the staff, myself, Marge. During our summer months, we do have security that go out and take a look at the skateboard park and also our tennis courts, looking to make sure that we have badges, making sure that we follow rules and regulations. The concerns for safety is always paramount, but in addition to that would be concerns that that there's no bicycle riding, no rollerblading, those types. There's scooters that young adults sometimes bring to the skateboard park, and we really find that that is a liability concern for us. We have found in the past, beyond us enforcing, without the ordinance, the police don't have any way to follow through. And our young adults and our youth are smart enough to know that at this point.
And then from a liability standpoint, if somebody gets hurt, like for instance, if they're not wearing the protective equipment, they get hurt, I mean, how does that affect?
I mean, it is mostly, for the most part, we have the regulation in there. If they don't pay attention to the regulation, it's at their risk. It's not a liability.
The rules are posted, Councilman, just so that you know.
Thank you.
So, yes, I actually do think it should be changed from temporary to seasonal. Because
That's
it's
easy.
technically not temporary, it is seasonal though. But just, so if there's a group, an organized group of 10, what we're saying here is they don't need the permit, they don't need the tag. Wait, they don't need
a
the.
permit. What we're looking to do is, if we're looking to have a skateboard competition or some type of event where there are more than 10 young adults or children coming together, we're looking for them, in addition to having their badges, we're looking for a permit.
Okay, so, I'm sorry, so I mixed the words. So they still require a badge?
Correct.
So everyone in that group of 10 would require then a
Correct.
badge? Because the
Yep.
badge is going to create this document, which is probably a hold harmless and medical information, whatever, so.
That would be part of our code of conduct.
Right,
Right,
okay,
and
got
that
it.
would be
Okay.
definitely one of the suggestions as you go through Community Pass on all of our youth sports
I agree.
programs, all of our programs, all of our activities, that code of conduct must be read and agreed to by the legal parent or guardian in order to proceed to payment.
Right.
Can I just ask then, so, they will have to fill out an application for a permit if it's 10 or more?
Correct.
But there'll be no charge for the permit?
No charge for the permit, but they
Right.
must all
They
be
must
badge
fill it out.
holders.
Okay, but they also must fill out the permit
Correct.
application, okay.
Okay, and then what happens when someone breaks the rules?
Initially, there's a conversation the first time. Depending on the severity of where we are, most times when you go out, we are looking for safety first. So whether they have their helmets, whether they have their knee and their shin guards, their elbow guards, that's important. The real concern, Mayor, is if the park is being used inappropriately, the ramps, the quarter pipe. You know, we definitely don't want bicycles on those. We don't want scooters on those. And some of that is the reason for the ordinance, because at that point, you know, they've been told to come off. They'll come off, they'll go around the block, we'll go in the building, and they'll be right back. There have been times when we have called the police for their assistance, and the young adults know that there's no ordinance, so there's no enforcement. You know, the police can talk to them, but without a law, they're not breaking the law.
So is there a fine associated with, I guess, because first we started with the conversation, but what's the,
Take their badge.
we take their
We
badge?
could revoke the badge, sure.
We revoke the badge, okay, and then we have fees if they're, we do have fines if they violate the rules. Okay, okay, good. All right, good, seasonal.
Seasonal.
The next one is, grading pool hours, fees, and, website presence. So this is something that I know the council wanted to see for, this year. Basically, I just wanna remind you that last year we passed the grading pool fees for, both 2017 and 2018. And, they haven't changed.
Right.
We also had an early bird in the month of April, we're still having an early bird again during the month of April of this year, which saves, a percentage of the total cost May 1st forward. No change again, for senior residents, disabled, non-resident adult, non-resident child, and resident daily guest pass. Late season fees, remain the same from last year. So basically, it's no change, so I just wanted to remind you of that. The other thing is, there is a brochure from 2017 here. 2018 is basically going to be the same, with just the dates, changed to coincide with the proper dates. So, off by a day or two, the times will be the same as, they were last year as well. So obviously, in the early season, it's, less time during the weekdays, weekends, and then it progresses as, we go into the summer, and then the late season, mid-August forward, they also reduce the hours. So, and that's, what we did last year.
So, any questions?
We're still doing the senior days again?
But we did do that, if you do look back at the, revenue from, the pool revenue, it is noted that between the, Free Senior Tuesday, the SSA and waivers, and also the free family pass that we did, that cost approximately $14,310. So that's up to the council, we can certainly continue it if you choose to do so.
I mean, I'm in favor
Yeah,
of
I'm
in favor
continuing,
as well.
to do
Yeah.
senior days.
Yep.
Okay.
So,
Okay. And
yeah.
then we can continue to do that.
And the early bird special, that worked out well, right? So we're still comfortable moving forward with that? And those dates worked out? Okay, so once
Yeah.
again, we thank the ad hoc committee that was put together last year for their work.
Okay, so the next one is the village hall meeting.
Sorry, so the website presence, are we gonna do the banner now this year?
Well, Yeah, as we
between
did
now
last
and,
year,
yeah.
we did the
okay.
picture, and then you clicked on the picture and it took you to
Perfect.
Community Pass. We'll do the same as we did.
Thank
Yes.
you.
Starting April 1st. And we'll run that through April 30th to say early bird, and then probably run it through June for regular membership.
Well, we want the banner to go up sooner, though, no? When does early bird start?
April 1st.
April 1st, 2 weeks.
That's funny.
Yes.
So-
Yeah, it's really like,
Ah, gosh, all right,
Before you know it.
okay.
Okay?
All right, but should the banner go up sooner, just so people kind of know they're looking for
We'll
it?
put it in the narrative of the website
Okay.
too, so maybe a week before,
Okay.
just so people are aware.
Yeah,
And
they
then
kind
you
of-
have an entire month, we'll
Right.
announce it at council meetings, you
Mhm.
know. I know that, Recreation will have the brochures at Earth Day on April 21st, is that correct?
22nd.
22nd, thank you.
Sunday.
And so they will be there to hand out brochures and let people know. So they'll still have time, you know, if they
Yeah.
haven't heard about the early bird, they'll still have about 8 days to do so, if they wish to do so. So it should be good.
Okay,
Okay.
moving on?
Okay. So the next one is Village Hall Meeting Rooms Policy. It's actually level 1 meeting rooms, which is the youth center, this room, the senior center, and also the garden room. This is to be consistent with the stable where we charge for the use of the rooms, or rental of the rooms. We have, as we do for the stable, there's a Class A, a Class B, and each one is defined as to what they are. I think probably the easiest one to look at is the middle one, which has the red and the green, because that shows you the changes. Basically, Class A has now included, official business meetings of village municipal government agencies, Ridgewood Board of Education, village council appointed boards and committees, and official professional association meetings. And then B becomes groups meeting under the sole jurisdiction of the village of Ridgewood and activities co-sponsored or recognized by the village. And the Class C is Village of Ridgewood, Board of Education, and local branches of clubs and groups, both charitable and civic. Class D is Ridgewood residents and all other groups or organizations of Ridgewood, and Class E is non-residents. Then if you turn the page, you'll see that, for Class A, there is no charge, because we don't charge our boards and committees for meeting here in these rooms. For Class B, it's no charge during regular hours. The charges haven't changed. The proposal is similar to what's done at the stable. So, it indicates what, if staffing is required, there's a security charge, and anyone, if there's large groups over 75, it will require one additional village staff member for the security, at a rate of an additional $50 per hour. So, for the amenities fee, and this is for classes C, D, and E, which again are, non-residents, residents, who are using the facilities. It's a $100 fee for use of the kitchen, tables, chairs, table games, electronics technology such as the television or the projector and screen. So that's a flat fee. The other thing, is to let people know that if the kitchen's used, all the equipment supplies must be cleaned and put back in order. And there'll be additional charges for broken equipment at the cost to repair and or replace the items. Because unfortunately, at times we've had that occur when groups rent out these rooms. I'm just looking quickly. I know, so it does indicate on the policies, the center's closed on holidays, we've actually taken summer recess out, although I think usually the last week in August or second last week in August, we do wax the floors down here, so that would be excluded, because we do close this area at that time. So, and then the other thing is, we did take the village hall courtroom out of this, because this is just for this level 1. If we wish to do that in the future, we can certainly do that separately. And then, again, it used to be a $25 flat fee for the kitchen, and it's a $100 amenity fee, which includes kitchen, tables, chairs. So, this is so that we can be consistent in what we're charging, so that we know it's in black and white, and when groups come to us, we can say, here's the ordinance, this is what we do at the stable, when groups wish to rent those rooms. you know, whether it's a birthday party or a gathering or, you know, whatever it may be, a meeting of an outside group, just letting them know what it is to charge. It's been, sporadic here at this level, and I'd like to, and I know recreation also would like to make it consistent and have something to back us up to say, this is why, you know, this is what the charges are, this is why, and here it is in writing.
Okay, any questions?
You get a lot of use out of these when
We do.
Yeah.
Mhm. Pretty much every weekend, sometimes Friday and Saturdays, sometimes Saturdays and Sundays. You know, there's a myriad of activities that go on within the community, and the youth lounge is especially favorable, especially to that middle school, young adult population, because of the billiards, because of the ping pong tables, the jukebox. It's an open space. We've got the flat screen. So it's, you know, kind of like being in your family room. And it's large enough to be able to incorporate a classroom or two. So it's favorable for, you know, I know the elementary schools use it, you know, for their fifth grade celebration step-ups, birthday parties. We do have church groups that come in, youth ministries, that type of program, lots of birthdays.
Nancy, just for, so I understand, you have co-sponsored / recognized. Could you identify what the difference was, recognized groups? I think
That
it's
goes
the
back
Class
to the
B.
field policy.
Yeah, I knew it was field
Right,
policy
it is
because it
field
drives me crazy,
policy,
and that's why.
And that's exactly it. Years ago, our youth sports groups were co-sponsored by the village, and each one of them within our budget was awarded $1,500 for all of our youth sports groups independently. Those fees have been taken out of the budget, and rather than being co-sponsored, they're now recognized.
So maybe it should just say recognized. What do you think? Because we don't.
Because technically, we
co-sponsor.
don't have any co-sponsored, is that correct? And I'll tell you, because I go sometimes
Well,
with
I
Councilman
don't
Hachey, we
know.
go.
Project Pride would be co-sponsored.
Oh, I see.
The Cashel Shell would be co-sponsored. Those are definitely two budgets automatically that come under the Recreation Department budget.
Okay.
So
You know,
if
Would
they
it-
wanted to meet, they would be a class.
To have
Right.
like League of Women Voters.
Okay.
So, go ahead.
that would be a Class C.
Because
Their
this
class
kind
A.
of goes
Class C.
along.
Right.
It would be civic,
Correct.
Civic, right.
yeah.
This goes along the co-sponsored though, so I guess it really wouldn't matter if a village committee was involved, because REAC and the Green Team sometimes co-sponsor things with the League of Women Voters, so if it did, it wouldn't matter, I guess, because then the Green Team and the
I would say it's a
REAC
class
would be.
A, because
Yeah.
that would be
Yeah.
official business meetings of appointed boards and committees.
Right, and then whoever else we would want to co-sponsor with, we could
Yeah.
co-sponsor with,
Yeah.
but then they'd come under
Right,
the, you know,
I would
under
say
our.
so, I would not charge
Okay,
in
all
that
right, yeah.
case, would be my feeling.
Another might be the 4th of July committee. You know, whereas though it's not an appointed board of the village, but it is co-sponsored by the village. So if they were looking to host an
Yeah.
event here, they are, I would think, so co-sponsored by the village.
But they're not
We don't-
recognized?
yeah,
Wouldn't they
Rec-
fall
rec-
under recognized?
Recognized only
Yeah,
for sports
recognized.
organizations, though.
right.
Okay. See, now I'm
Tomato,
confused
tomato.
about
Tomato,
fields now, right?
tomato.
Yeah,
It'd be a
Yeah.
class B.
Right.
yeah.
Okay, I just wanted to have some clarification on that. Okay, I'm good.
Okay, anyone else? So the next one is replacing a retreat grading report by the Safety Commission, and Councilman Stevens, do you have a report?
I have a brief report. We're still looking into it, so I believe the commission is gonna, take its time, because we have several experts who are commenting about several aspects of what could go there, what can't go there, and if there's bacteria in the soil or anything like that. So fall is the best time to plant trees, and that's when the majority, almost all of the tree planting in Ridgewood occurs. So we would imagine that we would be planting at this location probably in the fall, but we might have to do some simple soil analysis to see if there'd be a problem with, let's say, planting a sycamore, because one of our tree experts said that there could be bacteria or diseases in the ground that are still held over from the previous sycamore, and planting the same species in the same spot would make that more susceptible to these bacteria and everything that are still in the ground. So if we do a soil test and there is no bacteria present, then, you know, the sycamore could become, it could be chosen by the Shade Tree Commission as a replacement tree versus some other ideas that are floating around. But, you know, we'll do our due diligence, and we'll have something certainly in time for the fall planting.
We're definitely getting a tree.
Oh, yeah, don't
Okay.
worry, we're getting a tree,
We're getting a
for
tree.
So
sure.
you'll let me know when you want it back on the agenda?
Yes.
Okay, that's good.
Okay, good.
Okay, so the next one is the Concealed Carry Reciprocity Act of 2017. As you know, we've had many people at our meeting the last time, as well as Ms. Dallas tonight, urging the council to oppose this legislation, which is in the House of Representatives and also the Senate, U.S. Senate. And basically, every state allows concealed carry, but some states require background checks and training and a lot more requirements. Some require nothing, they don't even require a permit. So what these two bills would allow is that if you're in a state that requires nothing to have a concealed carry, that if you came to New Jersey to visit or pass through or have dinner, that you would be subject to your own state's rules and regulations and not those of New Jersey. And so, you know, because New Jersey has some of the more stringent concealed carry legislation, it would be quite likely that if this were to be adopted, that, you know, there would be people coming through and, like people said, you could be sitting next to someone in a movie theater and they could have a gun, and that's not something that would normally happen in New Jersey. So, this is for the council to discuss whether you wish to oppose this legislation.
Yeah, anybody? Questions, comments?
I oppose it,
Yeah, I have to say, you know, New Jersey has some of the toughest concealed carry laws on the books, and so it's surprising to me that we would allow anyone to come in from another state that has no regulations and no, of course, people probably have concealed carry and we just don't know it, which is, you know, unfortunate, but I'm good. Nope, good.
Yeah, I mean, state has its right to regulate firearms and who can carry
Right.
that, so I mean, you know, the federal government's gonna do whatever the federal government wants to do, but if it's in the power of the states to regulate this, then it should stay with the states. I'm fine with this.
Yeah, I think it's one of the things that New Jersey has really done well. If you look at the statistics of gun violence in New Jersey compared to less stringent states, it's worked out well. And to think, you know, just how easy guns can be accessed in other states, and to think that you could have someone sitting next to you in a movie theater or anywhere else, and so definitely oppose it.
So we'll have that on for tomorrow.
Tomorrow night. Yep.
So Maple Park turf field replacement is the next item. We had a question regarding whether we could borrow from the Open Space Trust Fund, the village's Open Space Trust Fund, and we went to bond council and they said, yes, in fact, you can do that. So what would happen is we would appropriate $500,000, up to $500,000 from the village's Open Space Trust Fund. We would then adopt a bond ordinance, which would then reimburse the village's Open Space Trust Fund. But the beauty of this is we just need to have a resolution. We can then go ahead and proceed with the Maple Park turf field replacement. Because at this time, I think most of, if not all of you know, we have closed down the Maple Park turf field due to concerns raised by residents and parents of people who are using that field. And so the sooner you can get it replaced, the better. The one thing I do want to let the council know is if you wish, you can reimburse all of the $500,000 or a portion of it. I know that Ms. Bigos told me that Open Space, Ridgewood Open Space met, and they were not in favor of using this money for the replacement of the turf field.
Well, correction.
Go ahead.
Yeah, so I don't think we've officially kind of discussed it. I think we'll do this Thursday night
Oh, okay.
in a more I guess, formal manner. I'm actually in favor. I mean, we've got 600 and some odd thousand sitting there. It's been sitting there for quite a while. And it should be used for something like this. I'm pretty much in favor of that. Question is how much, and it's totally up to you guys as to what you want to do. I mean, it's just been sitting there, and let's use it. So-
I mean, we have to get this repaired. It's a safety issue, I think, and in fairness, we're not having any access. We don't have use of it now. So the sooner we get this kind of cleared off the desk, the better off we are.
And-
So
and
it's
we
a
may
way
have-
to facilitate
We may
that.
have some more offsets. I know that there's some grant money that could potentially come in.
Right.
Yeah, the county grant money, most likely we won't be able to, they won't, the freeholders won't award it till June or July. And so if we start the work or finish the work, most likely we won't be
won't get it.
eligible for
Right.
their, grant money.
Right.
And so, the other money that we thought of using was from our own open space trust.
But we could
fund.
use that grant money for something else.
I'll have to find out.
You'd have to have
Yeah.
a
I'll have to
project
find out
already.
if that's the case.
Oh, we have plenty of projects.
No, I know we do. I know we do. I have to just find out if they're funding a turf field, if we can use it for some other purpose.
There
Yeah.
was also some mention from some of the sports groups who expressed that they might be willing to put some money towards it as well. But that hasn't been, formally kind of committed, but I think it's worth pursuing. But certainly from a safety standpoint, even though it's closed off now, the concern is kids could be kids and, sneak in there and play around thinking that it's safe and have something catastrophic happen. So better that we get this done, because otherwise, the regular schedule would have put the completion of this towards the end of the summer.
Correct, or even early fall.
Mhm.
And so
Yeah.
this way, we'll get it done probably by May before
Yeah.
camp, because I know the summer camp
Yeah,
uses
absolutely,
it as
yeah.
well. So, and so we, I know Ms. Vigos is working on, working with two of the turf field vendors, and she's gonna bring that information to us. We'll review it probably March 28th, and then possibly even be able to award that evening based on what is found out.
So I do think we have to nail down the sports groups on some kind of
Yeah,
payment towards this, just for
Like maintenance, like an
Maintenance,
ongoing kind of.
some kind of an ongoing fund,
Yeah, like a sinking
because-
fund, like we've discussed previously, because I think this is a good use of this to get this project moving now, so
Right.
we could get it completed in time, so it could be used in the summer, in the spring and summer and the fall. But, it gives us, it'll give us enough time to figure out if there's grant money available or other sources of money,
Right.
and how we wanna pay it back and how much we wanna pay it back, and then we could kind of decide however long that takes. But this is to get it up and running,
Right.
immediately. It's-
Right, but we have to peg them down to,
Right.
nail them down to something.
Yeah,
It's a
I
big
mean,
chunk of
that's-
change, yeah. Okay.
that's
I mean, I'll just add this, having spent a lot of time on that field. People bring bicycles onto that field.
Yeah.
They do all kinds, so the other thing is, everybody's gonna have to behave when they're on the field and not, drag things on. I've seen people drag coolers that they're literally dragging across the field. They don't have wheels on it, they're kind of dragging, so there's gotta be also, a shared responsibility of how we can maintain it
Sure.
and let it last longer, so,
Do we have rules posted on that says
yeah.
you can't do this? Don't drag
Well,
your
it usually
coolers,
happens
right?
where somebody's got a game
Yeah.
and they bring siblings, and the siblings came down on bikes, and then they're riding bikes all over the
Mhm.
field,
Right.
and skidding and jumping and,
This will give us a chance to revisit
Yeah.
the facility also.
yeah,
Yeah, I think it's important that, okay,
yeah, it'll last longer.
yep, good point.
And the next one is preserving the community development block grant program. We received a request from freeholder Mary Ann Russo, requesting that all Bergen municipalities adopt a resolution to preserve the community development block grant program. As you know, the village has received various block grants. One was the ramp from the grading pool parking lot to the Linwood Avenue sidewalk, and the other one was the ramp at the stable. So this is just requesting that this be preserved because it looks like in the fiscal year 2018 budget, it proposes a total elimination of this program.
I think, anybody have any questions or thoughts on that? We support keeping it.
All right, so the next item is a review of tomorrow evening's agenda. We have two proclamations declaring March Red Cross Month and March Colorectal Cancer Awareness Month. We have swearing in of a firefighter, 3 fire lieutenants, and a fire captain. Introduction of ordinances. We have reestablishing the water rates and fees from 2010 to 2017, amending the water rates and fees for 2018, and then no public hearings for ordinances. Under resolutions for Ridgewood Water, we have a Title 59 approval and award of contract for supply and maintain cold water meters. Award contract under state contract 2018 Ford Super Duty F-350 with 8-foot box. Award contract under state contract miscellaneous materials and supplies. Award contract installation of water mains. Award professional services contract additional services for water rate study for Ridgewood Water years 2013 to 17. Award professional services contract design and administration of improvements of the South Side Reservoir. Introduction of ordinances. We have the Parks and Recreation amending Chapter 212, establish rules and regulations for the, we're gonna say seasonal skate park. We have amend Chapter 145 for fees for the seasonal skate park. We have establishing policies for use of level 1 rooms for Village Hall, and amending Chapter 145 for fees for use of village facility. We'll say level 1 rooms at Village Hall, is what we're gonna say. For use of- Okay, Village Hall. Our public hearings are amendment to the municipal parking complex, amending Chapter 145 for fees for significant sewer discharge or fees, and then Chapter 145 for fees for sewers and sewer disposal, the connection fee for residential and non-residential development. And we have ordinances for a continued public hearing for the allowing certain illuminated interior signs in the central business district. I just have a question. Do you think that at this point we should defeat this ordinance because it's gonna be a substantive change, or should we just continue it again till April?
I think we should defeat it because it is, I think we're going to have changes, substantive changes,
Lots
yeah.
of changes.
Okay, so there's lots of changes, we'll have to reintroduce.
I think it was just confusing, so I think that the planning board members didn't
Really?
really understand, and maybe it's in the language, so we're going to have to clean it up.
Okay, so we'll
Okay.
defeat that ordinance,
But-
and then when the new one's ready for introduction, you can introduce it.
But the other part of it is still suspended, so it doesn't put anyone in the
Correct.
CBD in harm's way.
Right.
Right, so,
Because
Except when is that up? When is that?
June 30th.
June 30th, right, it's
what
So then
June,
we just
yeah.
have to revisit it then.
Right, so then you just continue, okay, fine,
Okay,
we're good.
So we'll defeat this, and then hopefully have an ordinance to introduce shortly from the planning board. I forgot to ask, I'm sorry, with the Ridgewood Water resolutions, were there any that needed to be off of the consent agenda?
No.
Okay, so now resolutions for the regular part of the meeting, endorsing submission of recycling tonnage grant, Title 59 approval, and award of contract for coach bus transportation services for the Hill trips. Title 59 approval and award of contract for concession refreshment services at Graden Pool. Title 59 approval, and also award of contract for paving and resurfacing. It's actually partial contract. Award of contract for the printing for the 2018 municipal election. Award of professional engineering services contract to upgrade and maintain SCADA system for the water pollution control facility. Authorized shared services agreement for vehicle maintenance and repairs with Washington Township. Declaring property surplus, John Deere loader for the streets department. Declaring property surplus for Ford F-250 pickup truck for Parks Department. Declare various property surplus for the fire department. Granting a major soil moving permit for 257 Ridgewood Avenue, the Enclave. Grant major soil moving permit, KS Broad Street, Ken Smith 2. Increasing the 2017 deferred school taxes. Approving budget reserve transfers. Opposing legislation for the concealed carry reciprocity act. Correcting resolution 17-111, accept partial donations, portable fuel cell trailer for Parks and Recreation, supporting preservation of community development block grant program, Title 59, approval and award of contract for repair and purchase of emergency equipment and radios for the police cars. Appropriate funding for replacement of Maple Park turf field from Village of Ridgewood's Open Space Trust Fund. And we do have appointment of members, but we're actually going to remove those for tomorrow evening. So, were there any of those that need to be on
So,
the consent agenda?
with the open space and appropriated, is that you're borrowing money for that?
Yes.
I'm just wondering whether or not you wanna hold off, because we're gonna talk on Thursday, and we'll probably end up having on the open space, and we may come to the conclusion that let's use the money.
Well,
Yeah.
you know.
Or do you wanna just move ahead with
Yeah,
this
no, I think I
regardless?
want to move ahead because we've been waiting on this and we have to get this done. We don't, the clock is ticking to get this done.
It's
and-
Yeah,
a
like-
concern
So-
about.
so-
And it's a council
Yeah,
decision, so I think we're good.
Let me ask you this, so I mean, if we pass this and we decided on Thursday, that let's give some money.
Right.
You know, it's not, it's not ultimately their open space decision, it's the council's decision. but-
Correct.
To make a recommendation.
Yeah.
It's like I brought up before, it's like we could do this now, and then we could decide later, how much does open space want to
Correct.
commit,
Right.
if they don't want to commit, whatever they want to do, and then we make the decision, whatever their recommendation is, and how much we get paid back, with grants or
Right.
anything else, this is just to get it moving so
Right.
it gets done, and then we
Right.
can figure out
Are you good with that?
who
Yeah,
pays
that's fine.
what.
Okay,
Yeah, that's fine.
all right.
Okay, and it does indicate that any reimbursement will occur no later than 18 months after the day's expenditure is made or it's placed in service, so. We have time, but certainly I think that whatever we decide, this has to get done.
Yeah,
Yeah, sure.
I'm just moving along.
Okay,
Okay.
so, so that's that.
Are we doing a manager's report tonight, or are you holding it till tomorrow night?
I'm going to wait till tomorrow night.
Yeah, okay. And then what about everyone else? So does
Do
any,
council.
yeah,
tonight
you
or
want to do
tomorrow?
council tomorrow night? It's up to you. You want to do
Yeah.
tomorrow
Yeah, we'll do
night?
tomorrow night.
Yeah.
Okay.
More people will see it.
More people will see it. Yay. Okay, so going back to public comment, not to exceed 5 minutes per person. Public comment. Good evening.
Good evening, again, Loving, 342 South Irving Street. First, I'd like to say that the acoustics in this room are awesome. To actually hear, I don't know if you've considered, some people have proposed moving the microphone over to the side again, the way it used to be up in the courtroom. We could always hear so much better. I know, anyway, just commenting on that. A couple of things about Graydon. First of all, I'd like to thank you. It sounds like you're gonna keep the rates the same. Very much appreciated. I'm wondering whether those placemats that Councilman O'Shea did the freeform art for, are they gonna be at the Daily Treat again? Cause that was really nice to see last year.
Get on it quick.
I don't know if you still have the artwork for that.
Yeah,
Also, we had, real estate office handouts about Graydon for people to give. I think they may have included those placemats. They were like coloring placemats. Wondering whether, the electronic signs are going to announce about the April, early bird fee and so on and so forth. Also, there was some mention about the brochure being the same as last year. Last year's brochure had a couple of errors in it, so if you're gonna reprint last year's brochure, you might wanna double check that. For example, it mentioned that there would be lockers, which is something we had discussed in our ad hoc committee, but they never materialized. If they're not materializing, you might wanna take that out. Also, free Wi-Fi was mentioned. I don't know if you guys are moving forward with the free Wi-Fi, but that, as I recall, was in last year's brochure. So just if you're gonna reprint with the same template, you might wanna, double check that.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ann.
Good evening, Boyd Loving, 342 South Irving Street. With respect to the skate park, I'm a little bit concerned about the $25/$50 charge, depending upon whether you are a resident or an out-of-town resident. Before you move ahead with that, and I realize there's really not a lot of time because you plan to introduce it tomorrow, I would ask that somebody check around with some of the other skate parks. I know there's one in Hoboken. I don't know where there are any others, to see if there are any other municipalities that are charging people to use skate parks that are within public parks.
it seems like a hardship to me. A 13-year-old now has to come up with $25 and register himself or herself. Again, if you could just check around and see if there are any other municipalities that have a fee for the use of a skate park. I'd hate for us to be the only ones that are charging people to use a public facility. People are gonna point at us and say, hey, there they go again, you know, charging people to use something that should be free. So somebody can make a quick check before you introduce that tomorrow night. There was talk about the use of the garage by Washington Township. Again, you're going to introduce that tomorrow night, or maybe that's a resolution for tomorrow night. My concern is, I'm wondering why they're not using Paramus. Are our rates a lot cheaper? And if our rates are a lot cheaper, are we going to be losing money? Now, Paramus has a huge facility and was out soliciting business. Why is Washington Township all of a sudden coming to us? So would guess that the rates for Paramus are posted on Paramus's website, the E-code. So maybe somebody could just take a look and see if we're competitive with Paramus, way lower than Paramus. It would just concern me that why Washington Township didn't go to Paramus when Paramus is out soliciting business and they built a huge facility to handle business like that. As you all know, tomorrow there's going to be something going on at the high school that's going to require, from what I understand, a significant number of additional police officers for security. Don't know if that's fact or fiction, but if it's fact, I'm just wondering, is that money coming out of your budget, or is the Board of Education paying for that police overtime? I know there was a discussion about whether we were willing to pay for school security, and I think you decided not to, and said that that was on the Board of Education's back. So now the Board of Education has authorized this event to happen at their facility that requires police overtime. Taxpayers are gonna pay for it, but the question is, are they dumping it on you, or are they picking that up? Don't know how many police officers are there, don't know about out-of-town officers coming in. I've seen stories on Facebook about fences being set up and a massive police presence. Don't know how true that is, but would suggest that you might want to check on it just to see how much money is being spent on that. And I just got a question. There was talk about the bond council tonight making a recommendation. I'm just curious to know the name of that bond council to see if it was the same bond council that made a recommendation about.
No.
It's not that same bond
Nope.
council. Okay,
No.
thank you very much.
Okay,
That recommendation worked out last time.
all right, no one else? We're going to end close public comments and a resolution to go into closed session.
Be it resolved by the Village Council of the Village of Ridgewood that the Village Council meet in closed session on March 13th, 2018 at 8:00 p.m. or as soon thereafter as the matter on the agenda can be reached, and that said closed session will be held in the caucus room on the 4th floor of Ridgewood Village Hall, 131 North Maple Avenue, Ridgewood, New Jersey. Be it further resolved that the matters to be discussed in closed session are limited to personnel matters to include boards and committees, municipal prosecutor, and legal matters to include Ridgewood water litigation, affordable housing, and Valley Hospital. These matters are allowable under NJSA 10:4-12 et sec. Be it further resolved that the minutes of this meeting shall be made available to the general public when such matters have been deemed completed by resolution of the Village Council. Have a motion?
So moved. Second.
Thank you.
All right.
I just want to say everyone kept their piles really neat in this confined space.
A little bit more
That's